Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if God Issei married with all girls and had kids with all? Before I start, please do support for more awesome content, and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the Hattori Heiji 121 for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story. Link in the description. Early morning in Ku, the sun shining the world. The twin siblings known as Xavier Gremory and Kelia Gremory were doing their morning routine as the maid preparing breakfast for them. They are well known in Ku Academy as the Red Prince and White Princess duo, dubbed by their admirers. They were worshipped along with 8 great ladies of Ku: Rias Gremory, Akino Himejima, Sona Citri, Tsubaki Shinra, Tiamat, Rasweiss, Asuna Yuki, and Shido Irina. The said twin heads to school after had their breakfast. They noticed perverted trio were chatting about something perverted without shame. Xavier lowly scowls at the particular person, Hayadu Issei. He was well known as the biggest perverts in Ku Academy and pawn of Rias Gremory. Kelia, who notices the disdain, looks on his face, putting her hand on his shoulder. Kelia, calm down Xavier. I know you hates his perversion, but that's what he is, you can't change that. Regardless of it, he's still the Red Dragon Emperor. Having him on our side sure is an advantage, she said while gently caresses his shoulder to soothe his anger. Xavier, TCH. Auntie Rias are too lenient with him just because he's the Red Dragon Emperor and gamble everything on him in order to be free from arranged marriage with Riser Phoenix. That boy claims to be harem king. That's what pissed me off the most. He's just like Riser, too greedy, he spat venomously. He absolutely can't tolerate it being around the boy. She let out a deep sigh as she knew her twin despised perverts. Well, she can't blame him since she too despised perverts, but not as much as he is. Kelia, alright, you made your point, now calm down. She hugged his arm as she rested her head on his shoulder. He nodded reluctantly as he rolled his eyes. Xavier, fine. 5 minutes later, they arrived to the academy and bumped into Yuto Kiba, Rias's knight. Kelia greets the blonde with a smile. Kelia, good morning Yuto. The said knight greets back with the same courtesy. Kiba, good morning to you too, Kelia-sama, Xavier-sama. Xavier didn't reply but nods his head, acknowledged his warm, friendly greeting. Kelia, sorry about Xavier, he is in bad mood right now. You know. With Hayadu and his friends' shenanigans. You know him, he despised perverts, she explained to the blonde knight, who nods in understanding. Kiba, my sincerest apologies for that, Xavier-sama. I tried to reasoning with him about it but he won't budge. He bows apologetically of Issei's perverted antics. Xavier waved his hand in dismissive manner. Xavier, no need to blame yourself for that. Rias are too soft on him and pamper him too much. He takes off his shoes and put on the school shoes, then put his shoes in the locker. He heads to the classroom together as they are in the same class, C. Unfortunately for Xavier, Issei Hayadu and his perverted friends also had the same class as him. Xavier sit down at his seat. Kelia took a seat next to him, while Kiba sitting behind Xavier. Captains of the Kendo Club approach him with bunch of Valentine chocolate in their hands. Murayama, Xavier-kun, this is for you. She hands over her homemade chocolate cake to him, which he gratefully accepted. Xavier, thank you Kaori-san, he said with a smile. Soon Keitase turned to give him her homemade chocolate cookies. Keitase, Xavier-sama. Please accept this, she said with a blush on her face. He finds it adorable side of her, he took it from her. Xavier, thank you Yui-san, he replied. The said girls runs off to their seats with a smile on their faces. Kelia nudges her twin on the shoulder roughly. Kelia, she was pouting, not liking the girls one step ahead of her. Yes, Kelia is a brocon who has massive affection for her twin brother. Kiba, who notices this, giggles quietly. The perverted trio watching the red-haired prince with jealousy as none of them got the chocolate for this year Valentine Day. Issei, he think he is so much bet. His sentence immediately died down as he feel ominous aura coming from the said red-haired prince as his gaze were cold and devoid of emotion. Xavier, say something pervert? He asked coldly. Issei shook his head in fear and looks forward as not wanting to anger him anymore. Matsuda and Motohama followed their friend's example as they know Xavier was scary when he gets mad. Xavier was focusing on Rasweiss' teaching seriously as he wrote in his notebook. Kelia was also do the same. They are nerds in some way, however that only makes them even more popular with the students. The perverted trio however keep glancing at Kelia, staring at her breasts in lecherous way. Xavier, who notices the uncomfortable Kelia, realizes that she wasn't like to be stared at, especially by the perverts. Xavier, that's it! I had enough with these pieces of shit. He broke the table into tiny microscopic with one slam as he stood up. He walks towards the perverted trio and towering over them like a giant beast who had the anger expression on his face. Kiba prayed to Mao, hoping Issei is saved from Xavier's wrath. Kelia and the other students watching him scaring the hell out of them. Xavier, you three got some nerve to stare at my sister's breasts when I'm around your dead man, he said with full venom as he cracked his knuckles and kicking them out of the classroom through the window, the three of them fallen unconscious. He jumps off to the ground and drags them to student council office. Xavier, Rose-sensei. I will be back after sending these fools to Stuco, he shouts loudly as he made his way there. She doesn't say anything, just nodded. She then clapped to get the attention of the students. Rosweiss, okay class. You may take a break for now, the class is dismissed. She gathered her stuff and went to the office. Murayama and Keitase walks up to Kelia, who's still shivering due to the trio perverts of Ka. Murayama, are you okay, Kelia-san? You must be traumatized by those guys' shenanigans, she asked the silver-haired beauty. Kelia, I'd be lying if I said I'm okay. It was creepy enough to be stared at, especially by those three. Xavier and I knew what he should do. Keitase, it'd be great if those three were expelled from the academy, but that was wishful thinking. Xavier-sama will take care of those guys, she comforted her by caressing her back. To Xavier at Stuco with great ladies, Rias Gremory, Akino Himejima, Sona Citri and Tsubaki Shinra, as he told Sona to summon Rias and Akino, which she did. Rias looks at her nephew and asked, Rias, care to explain why you call us here? And why these three unconscious? Xavier sneered and clapping, which confused them as they wondered why he did it. Xavier, you asked me why? You of all people should know the answer already. If you didn't, then here's why. During class session, these fools, especially your favorite pawn, had the gall to stare at Kelia's breasts along with his friends in lecherous way. If Dad and Mom finds out, it doesn't matter if Haida is this generation Red Dragon Emperor, their daughter comes first, he explained. Rias gulped when hearing that. If her brother found out that Issei stared at his daughter in that way, he would be obliterated without second thoughts. If he doesn't, Grafia definitely would. Xavier himself was overprotective of his twin sister. Sona and Tsubaki shakes their heads in disappointment. Akino doesn't say a word. Sona, I guess the karma is biting them for what they have done. Please educated your servant Rias. It is your niece that he was stared at. Your nephew, Xavier, is known as Red-Eyed Devil of Death for a reason. His reputation is widespread in the underworld, no one dare to mess with him. If I were you, I'd beat the hell out of Haida-kun for doing such thing, she said sternly as she adjusted her glasses. Xavier formed a sphere of POD in his palm and aimed it at the trio perverts. This alerts Rias and the others as they knew that he is very angry. Rias gently put her hand on his face, strokes his cheek with her thumb. Rias, I know you are very angry right now and you justify to do so. I would be too if I were you, but please, let him go this time. I'll make sure Issei won't do it again. I promise you that in the name of Gremory clan. His POD dissolved into nothing as he lowered his hand. Xavier, fine. However, the next time it happens again, I'll eliminate him and his friends from existence regardless what you said, begging, or even groveling. I don't care about his title as Red Dragon Emperor. Kelia comes first. He turns around and walks off. Akino let out a deep sigh as it is now over. Akino, Issei-kun got lucky this time. You're way too lenient with him, Rias. And see the results? You are younger sister of Mao Surzek's Lucifer. Meanwhile Xavier and Kelia are his children. No offense, but your nephew and niece are 0x stronger than you, especially Xavier. He is mid-super devil class and has experienced in the raiding game under his belt. His winning record surpassed Riser Phoenix. Please stop being too soft on Issei-kun. This is for his own good, she reasoning with her king. Sona and Tsubaki shares her sentiment, as Xavier is someone they should never mess with. Tsubaki, I agree with Akino, Rias-sama. Haida crossed the line this time. The same can be said for his friends. She added her own opinion. After school, Xavier and Kelia went to ORC along with the Stuco. Xavier had his arm wrapped around Rosweiss' slender waist. His other arm were hugged by Kelia. Saji, on the other hand, was super jealous as he had a massive crush on her but couldn't confess due to the fact that Xavier was so overprotective of her, which Sona and Tsubaki notices. Saji, Not fair. I did so much to obtain Lady Kilia's attention, but nothing's working. Damn pretty boy of a brother, he cried comically in his thoughts. Tsubaki, it seems like Saji liked Lady Kilia so much but couldn't get close due to Lord Xavier's overprotective nature, she whispers to her king, who nodded in agreement. Sona, just like Hayate-kun, who is in love with high-class devil, Saji is in love with someone even higher ranking than Rias. It's no surprising since Lady Kilia is considered as top great ladies in Ku. Although Lady Kilia is a brokon, she hiding it very well. No one suspects it except me, Rias, and Lord Xavier himself, she added her own opinion. Tsubaki looks at the happy Valkyrie who snuggled up to him. Tsubaki, it is true that Miss Rosweiss, Lady Sarah Fall, and Kaneko Tuja are dating him. She can't help but ask, as it was kind of hard to believe. Sona, Rosweiss is his queen and her power on par with Serorg Bale, who knows as the number amongst the youth devil, only to be surpassed by Lady Kilia and Lord Xavier, who is hold the position of number, and my sister are too obsessed with him just as much as she is to me. And as for Kaneko, she confesses to him a while ago. It's rare to see that in her, who is cold to other boys, she answered, but hiding the truth about him as he is already married to few girls. Once they arrived to the clubroom, Xavier knocked on the door. A voice echoed from the other side. Akino, come in. They came into the room and took a seat on the couch. Kaneko sitting on his lap the moment he sat down, Rosweiss and Kilia sitting on his right/left side, hugging his arms. Most of the majority here had a sweat drops behind their heads, while Issei and Saji were overwhelmed with jealousy, shouting comically, which was stopped by Xavier, who fired small POD on the wall which disintegrated it. The pawns looks at Xavier in fear and gulps as they noticed his eyes shining that promised painful death if they keep this up, which they immediately went standing behind their respective king alongside their peerage members. Xavier, Hayate, just as your king, my auntie keep you on tight leash, you must keep your perverted friends in the same way. I could care less if you are this generation Red Dragon Emperor, my sister are way more important than your title. Do it again, you will know why I was known as Red-Eye Devil of Death firsthand. The same can be said for you, Saji. Instead of focusing on someone who literally doesn't have any interest in you, focus on someone who does. Unlike Hayate, you took your role seriously, just your arrogance and jealousy needed to be get rid of. How are you gonna support your king's dream when you behave like that, HM? Both Issei and Saji looks down in shame, especially Issei, as he was degraded a lot and wasn't recognized for his efforts, but he knows darn well that his perversion antics prevent him to be acknowledged, but it is who he is and he can't change that. Meanwhile, Saji was pondering of his words as Xavier just told him that he focused a lot on making good impression on Kilia, who doesn't even acknowledge his efforts. His effort was acknowledged by Xavier, but due to his arrogance and jealousy, he were degraded. He clenches his fist tightly, causing it to bleed. A moment later he felt a hand on his, and when he looks whose hand it was, to his surprise it was Momo Hanakai. In this moment, he knew who does acknowledge his efforts and smiles at her in appreciation. He in return hold her hand and intertwine their fingers together, as he looks at Xavier, who was smiling as he now realizes Xavier's true intentions. Rias and Sona include their peerage except Asia, who was comforting Issei, smiles at Xavier, who made Saji realize the truth. Saji, Lord Xavier, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for opening my eyes. I'm sorry for my intolerable behavior earlier, and I won't ever do it again. From now on, I will focus on my goal to help my king achieve her dream and spend the rest of my life with Momo. His declaration made the said girl blushing madly and buried her face in his chest. The group laughing at the new couple. Xavier, keep it up and you'll be high-class devil in no time. Your efforts are counted if you want to rise up to higher ranking. It wasn't easy but worth the effort. Now then, Auntie Rias. When will that mongrel came? I want to be there when he did, so are the rest of my peerage. Saji, thank you for your advice, Lord Xavier. He bows in appreciation as he is happy to be acknowledged by someone of his status. Rias, mongrel? WHO. He will come in 5 days from now. He along with the council pushing the date of the wedding. Does Kilia want to come too? She asked him while looking at her niece. Before he could answer, Kilia intercepted. Kilia, yes I am. Mother won't be there when he comes, I will. My peerage will come as well. As arrogant as Riser be, he knew his place when either me or Xavier and I are around. Xavier pats Kaneko's head much to her enjoyment, as she purred like a cat and snuggled on his chest for warmth. Kaneko, Naya, She accidentally let her cat ears and tail out but doesn't care about it. Issei, who notices this, wants to retort that he was the one who shall be snuggled by Kaneko, but keep his mouth shut, knowing Xavier would kill him if he flirting with Kaneko, who is one of the Super Devil's girlfriends. An hour later, Sona and her peerage goes back to student council office. Xavier and Kelia along with Rossweiss and Tiamat goes home, leaving Rias and her peerage. Much to Kaneko's dismay, she were told to come to his place later on, which made her happy. Rias sitting down, looking at her pawn. Rias, Issei. I want you and your friends to stop looking at my niece like that. Your kindness and caring for others are the traits I admired about you, but your perversion is out of control and I will not tolerate it any longer. Even if Xavier didn't do anything about it, I highly doubt my brother and Grafia just let it happen. I bet they will obliterate you for good, regardless of your title as Red Dragon Emperor. She paused for a brief moment before continuing. Rias, furthermore, the White Dragon Emperor are your arch-rival, and someday you are destined to fight him. It was inevitable. For the record, Xavier has defeating him countless times now, 6-0. Xavier isn't losing, not even once, and to make it worse, he doesn't even use half of his full power. I bet around 5%, not to mention his record in the rating game. He's currently become the rating game champion after he beat the former champion, Daihauser Belial. With the information about Xavier's reputation were revealed, Issei's eyes widened in pure horror. Not only Xavier defeating his arch-rival, he even became the current rating game champion. He literally messing with the strongest youth devil, who is the youngest super devil in devil hierarchy. What Rias said next will strike extreme terror in him. Rias, Xavier was known as Red-Eyed Devil of Death for a reason. When the enemies he defeated were in near-death state, all they see was his cold, red eyes that strike fear in them. Not many want to make an enemy out of him, knowing it would ended up undesirable for them. As much as it hurts me to say this, but I'm nowhere near his level. He is a veteran. He has been training very diligently since we were kids. Kelia was too, but only to be second after him. Issei was sweating profusely after learning about Xavier Gremory-Lucifuge. He might sign a death warrant by targeting Kelia Gremory-Lucifuge. Aquino and the others were listening with interest. Kiba, messing with Lady Kelia means directly messing with Lord Xavier, if not counting of Lord Surzex and Lady Grafia. So what's Issei-kun's punishment for his actions, Rias Bucho? He looks at his king. Rias sips her tea and put the cup down. Rias, Kaneko, you may beat him. As one of Xavier's girlfriends, you have my permission to do so, she said with seriousness in her voice. Kaneko walks up to Issei, who backing away in fear as she cracks her knuckles. Kaneko, ready pervert? She asked so sinisterly, which scared the hell out of him. Issei, Enanua. He shouted loudly, but were ignored by Rias as Kaneko beat him up, who's soon joined by Kiba and Aquino, who's telling them to do it. Kiba wasn't enjoy beating him up, as he only did because he was told to. Kaneko, on the other hand, enjoy it so much. Meanwhile, Aquino was giggling sadistically as she ing her fingers as she electrocuted him with her lightning magic. Asia, however, could only watch it happen as she wasn't strong enough to save him. Meanwhile, outside the clubroom, there's a firebird watching Rias Gremory from elsewhere. Soon, my dear Rias, you'll be mine. The mysterious voice echoed in the room with a sinister laugh as some of his peerage were snickered heavily except Ravel Phoenix, as she was thinking about her handsome red prince. Ravel, I hope we met soon, Xavier-sama. Riser, looking forward to meet you, my dear Rias. The said bird was poofed in smoke as it was Riser's familiar. Unknowingly to Riser, there's someone who watching him the entire time, and the person who came out from the magic circle was none other than Xavier Gremory-Lucifuge himself. Xavier, As expected from a playboy, you will be humbled soon, Riser Phoenix. He heard Issei's screaming of pain and agony. Xavier, well, I'll be. It seems he was being punished by Rias for his intolerable behavior. Good. Now I don't need to kill him myself. As he said that, he teleported away to his house. 5 days later, the day meeting Riser Phoenix has come. Rias and her peerage assembled in the ORC along with Xavier and Kelia as well their respective peerage. Xavier were enjoying the tea made by his ND queen, Shido Irina, which greatly shocked Issei as he didn't expect his childhood friend become a devil like him, and he demanded an explanation from Xavier Gremory-Lucifuge for dragging her into supernatural world. Xavier, pipe down, Hayato. Allow me to explain. As you can see, your childhood friend is the wielder of the true Longinus. After she was exiled from the church for possessing such power, she were ambushed by the rogue devils and fallen. If I didn't pass by when it happened, she might be brainwashed, and used as a weapon against the three factions or any other factions if she has a complete mastery of her power. Sacred gear wielder are shunned and live in solitude or treated as a massive threats by the enemies. You of all people should have known that since the fallen angel targeting you and Asia for wielding the boosted gear and twilight healing, especially yours, that was listed as one of the Longinus. This revelation brought shock to the group except Xavier's servants, Kelia and her servants. Issei looks at his childhood friend and seeing her holding the spear which radiating holy aura from it which shaken most devils. Irina, it is true, Issei, if it wasn't for Xavier-kun, I might be a tool for their cause, or even worse, they might use me for breeding stock and impregnated me against my will. It's been years since the day I were exiled from the church. My parents couldn't do anything about it because some of the higher-ups are self-centered and racist. The spear vanished. Irina wipes tears off her eyes. Issei was so devastated after hearing the truth from Irina. He clenches his fists in pure rage as his hatred for the church has been significantly increased to the point he would glad to declare war with the heaven. Kiba feel the same way, as if it wasn't for Xavier Gremory-Lucifuge, his friends would be dead. Thanks to him, they were rescued from being poisoned to death. Issei falls on his knees as he no longer has the strength to stand, as it was too much for him to digest. Issei, Lord Xavier, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for saving my childhood friend from impending doom. I'm truly grateful for that. I will do anything you ask of me, he said somberly as he cried out in agony. Asia were comforting him by hugging him. Irina sat down on Xavier's lap and cried out in his chest. He comforted her by caressing her head affectionately. Xavier, no need for that, Hayadu. Just be who you are, that's all I want to say. He now understands why his auntie, Rias Gremory, has feelings for the boy. His kindness and caring for others than himself is rare traits for a devil. Issei, his name means honest soldier. Despite his perverted antics, he has very kind soul. Perhaps you were too harsh on him. Few moments later, a burst of flames appeared in the clubroom and came out a man with blonde hair along with his peerage, which consisted of 5 young girls. Riser. Ah, how long has it been since Riser came to the human world? He practically asked to no one in arrogant manner. Rias said, her tongue in annoyance, and muttered one word. Rias, Riser, Riser. Ah, my dear Rias, Riser has code WW what? RRR red-eyed devil of death? Ice and lightning princess? What are you two doing here? He trembling in pure terror as twin of the Gremory prodigies were here. His fear significantly increased as he noticed their respective peerage standing behind them except Irina, who was sleeping on his chest. Riser's peerage excluding Revel Phoenix were in the same state as Riser, as the sheer power oozing from them tells who's boss around here. Xavier, well, hello Riser. It seems you are arrogant as ever, especially with the measly girls in your peerage, if excluding your sister, Revel Phoenix, since she is a free piece. Seems like to me that you want to boast about it to my beloved auntie, and bullied her and her peerage. He paused for a brief moment as he coated himself in POD aura, which not affecting Irina as he made sure of it, and continued. The building shaking as it filled with his intense aura, the walls and windows cracking. Xavier. Don't like your behavior. I believe in quality over quantity. Kelia does the same as she was coated in silver aura, which increases the terror in Riser and his peerage. Kelia, same here, you prick. They threw a gaze at the heir of the Phoenix clan as their eyes shining. Riser know he was signing death warrant, and for once he wishes he doesn't be so arrogant, yet he act like he owned the place, which he completely humbled by the twin. Rias, they are so strong and scary. She wasn't able to breathe as the aura oozing from her nephew and niece was too strong for her and her peerage. Akino, Kaneko and Kiba barely hold themselves. Issei and Asia, however, are fainted as they were considered the weakest in her peerage. Both Xavier and Kelia retracted their aura, which allows Rias and the others to breathe in as much air they needed. Xavier, you will settle this in the rating game in exact 1 month. Are we clear? He said in authority tone. Revel twirled her hair with her finger as she's staring at her crimson prince, which notices by Xavier, Kelia and Rias, who's shocked as she didn't know that Revel liked her nephew. Riser AM month? He retorted with another question. Xavier looks at his twin, and she nods, understanding what he wants her to do. She created ice spear and coated with lightning, aiming it at Riser. Kelia, answer his question, you damn prick. Are we CLER? She yelled out loud. Riser was panicked so much that he pissed his pants as he answered. Riser, our Riser understand. PP, please don't hurt Riser, he begged profusely. Xavier sneered as he narrowed his eyes. Xavier, now leave. And don't try to spy on our auntie again, you got that? Riser, yes, sir! He immediately returned to the underworld along with his peerage and Ravel, who waved at him, which he returned the gesture. After the meeting with Riser Phoenix, Xavier writing training menu he personally came up with for their training trip. Kelia writing list of foods they will eat for an entire month. As for their peerage, they will training Rias's peerage excluding Issei, as Xavier has someone else better for the job. Xavier, now listen up. You all got month before the rating game begin. All of you are going to do the training regimen I came up with. He shows them the training regimen he written in his iPad. They except Kaneko and Issei are flabbergasted as none of them expected this. Issei and Kaneko didn't say anything as they want to get stronger. Rias, are you nuts? This is insane. There's no way we could do it in a month. Akino, yeah. You truly are a Spartan geek, Lord Xavier. This is beyond us, she retorted loudly and followed by Akino. Xavier formed POD in his palm and F it in between of Rias and Akino's feet, which they dodged, and the floor was disintegrated in an instant. They was sweating bullets when they sees him formed another POD and aim at them. Xavier, this is what I and Kelia did when we were kids. I even invited you and Akino, but both of you refused, and looks where it got you now. You can do it or not, it's not my problem. Dad and Mom has given me the green light to do this my way, so none of you can complain, he said sternly. Kelia steps forward and showed the foods they'll be eating for a month. Rias and the others sighs in defeat as they couldn't complain about it, or they will be disintegrated by his pod. Kelia, pack your things. Tomorrow morning we will go to Gremory Villa. And wear these. She looks at her twin brother, who nods and throw the weights tracksuits on the floor. Xavier, each suits has different weight that's suitable for you. You will wearing that during training. Both my peerage and Kelia's will training each and one of you. Auntie Rias, your trainer would be Kelia. Akino, Rosweiss, Irina and Tiamat would be your trainers. Kiba, your trainers are our knights. Asia, our bishops. Kaneko's trainers would be our rooks. Any questions? They except Issei shook their heads. Issei raised his hand and asked, Issei, what about me, Lord Xavier? Who's my trainer? Xavier smirks devilishly and pointed at himself as he said one word that would definitely scare the hell out of him. Xavier, me. Issei trembling in pure horror, as he regret for asking such obvious question. Rias and her peerage prayed to Mao, as they knew Issei wouldn't survive if Xavier was his trainer. Xavier, don't tell me you're gonna chicken out now, Haida? Don't you want to become stronger and were acknowledged by me for your efforts? Well, this is the opportunity for you to do it. There'll be no next time. Upon hearing those words, Issei stopped trembling and had the serious demeanor in his eyes which shocks Rias and the others excluding Kelia, her peerage and Xavier's. Issei, please train me, Lord Xavier. I want to become stronger. I'm tired of being weak, he bows to him. Kelia smiles softly as she knew what her brother was aiming for. Xavier, well said, Hayadu. Now go home and pack your stuff. Met me at the park in 5 a.m. All yes, sir, they replied in sync and goes home. Xavier smiles at his twin sister. Xavier, let's go home and pack our things. We'll be busy for a month, training kids. His peerage giggles at his remarks. Kelia and her peerage chuckled. Kelia, shall we inform Sona Citri about this? She asked her twin, who shook his head. Xavier, no need. Rias will do it herself. With that, they all teleported back home with Magic Circle. They spent the night together, as the next day, they won't get to spend time with each other. After dinner, Xavier went to the Himejima shrine and digged Shuri's grave and took her cold, rotten body to the basement in his mansion. Xavier, Shuri Himejima, you'll be alive once again. A magic circle formed in his palm as he began the resurrection of Shuri Himejima, mother to Akino Himejima, his aunt's queen. Shuri's body slowly reformed itself. Her head that was severed by Himejima clan merged back and her skin color turned from white to brownish. She lowly groaned and opens her eyes as the resurrection was a success. Xavier, welcome back to the living world, Shuri Himejima. Shuri slowly turns her head and looks at him. Shuri, who are you? And how am I alive? Where's Akino and Barakil? She found her new strength and grips the collar of his uniform. He gently puts his hand on hers and stroked it with his thumb. Xavier, to answer your questions in order. My name is Xavier Gremory-Lucifuge, the Super Devil. Son of the current Mao Lucifer, Surzex Lucifer and Grafia Lucifuge. I used the forbidden spell, resurrection spell, to bring you back to life. After your death, Aquino was hunted down by the devils and saved by Rias Gremory, my auntie. She blamed Barrakiel for your death, and they never met ever since. Shuri let go of him as she was too shocked after hearing the truth from him. Her family falling apart ever since her death. She looks up at him in pure devastation as tears swelled in her beautiful yellow eyes. Shuri, how long I have been dead? She asked somberly as she biting her lower. Xavier hugs her, which she recapitulated and cries in agony. Xavier, I'd say it has been over 0 years now if I recall, Shuri-san. I understand this is too much for you to take in. Skip 1 month training and rating game between Rias and Riser ended up Riser being the winner like in canon. It's a drag and too troublesome. Rias and her peerage was utterly defeated by Riser Phoenix and his peerage, but they managed to give them a good fight until Riser took drastic measures to assure his victory. Issei's boosted gear evolved to ND Liberation and took down most of Riser's peerage with the help of Kiba's sword birth by transfer his power to Kiba. They letting their guard down by celebrating their victory, but it was turned out to be a mistake as Kiba was eliminated by Yubeluna, Riser's queen. Issei went to help his king, Rias and Asia to fight the king and queen duo with Asia's eliminated in the hands of Riser and Issei face off against Riser in one-on-one combat. No, it was one-sided beatdown as Riser completely pulverized Issei until he lose consciousness, and Rias immediately surrendered to prevent Riser from killing Issei. Xavier knew this would happen as it's no surprise that Riser has experienced in the rating game. Meanwhile his auntie Rias Gremory has none, so the result was inevitable. Which is why he took her place by proposing to marry Revel Phoenix after the rating game, as he had discussed about it with his father, as well Lord Phoenix and Lady Layla, without Riser knowing about it. They agreed as they knew Xavier will treat Revel just as much as he treats his other wives. Currently Xavier was sitting in the room with his wives, twin sister, mother, grandmother, and little brother. Revel Phoenix was taken to other room to prepare for the wedding by her mother, Layla Phoenix. Venelana, I'm so proud of you, Xavier. Not only you and your sister trained your auntie and her peerage, you even proposed an idea to take her place after the rating game by marrying Revel Phoenix. I'm proud of you too, Kelia, she said with a smile as she looks at her grandkids. Xavier smiles softly, and Kelia nods cheerfully. Xavier, it's nothing, Grandma. I know it may seem I'm sacrificing myself, but it wasn't. I've been thinking of marrying Revel for quite some time now. She's cute in her own right, and her latent talent are wasted if she's stuck with no good Riser. She has so much potential to become stronger than Riser, but I learned that he holding her back a lot, which is no good. He paused before continuing. Xavier, therefore I decided to ask for her hand in marriage. The elders from the council may be able to force other heirs to marry someone from another clan, but they have no power over me and never will. So mother, how's Hayata, by the way? Riser took it too far and nearly ending his life if not for Ant's intervention by surrender from the game. He looks at his mother, and she let out a sigh. Grafia. He's currently was treated by Asia Argento. His injuries were extreme, and it took days for Asia to completely heal him. I'm surprised he able to stood against Riser despite took his beatings with full force. Xavier. Well, he may been the biggest pervert, but he has the good heart that no one has. His kindness and caring for others pushes him this far despite the odd going against him. He loves Auntie Rias, but for some reason, he's kinda afraid of her and the other girls, though he never show it. I know because I can see the pain in his eyes. I'll investigate this later on. He stood up and walks out of the room with the others. Rias's peerage, Sona Citri and Tsubaki Shinra attends the wedding ceremony. Thought none of them know the truth just yet. Sona, you did perform well in the rating game. I guess Lord Xavier's harsh training regimen is paid off even if you lose. This is the first time you guys participated after all, so it should be expected, she said with a small smile formed on her face. Aquino, I agree, but still Rias is going to marry with that prick Issei doing his best to win despite being squashed by Riser over and over again. He keeps on fighting and not giving up. She looks down sad that her best friend lose the freedom she wanted. Kaneko, I wouldn't worry if I were you. Before you ask, look there. She points out at the group of people walking in the ceremony chamber, which Aquino and the others found out Xavier and Revel walking together in wedding suit and dress. Their jaws are wide open except for Kaneko since she's one of his wives, so she knew firsthand what he's trying to do. Kiba, what's going on here? Kaneko, explain, he said, and the rest looks at her, awaiting for the answer. Kaneko, well, long story short, my husband Xavier Gremory-Lucifuge is marrying Revel Phoenix instead if by chance Riaspucho lose in the rating game. As one of his wives, of course I know what he is trying to do. Tsubaki puts her hands on Kaniko's shoulders and asked, Tsubaki, hold on a sec. You are married? I thought you were just dating him. What's going on here? She lost her stoic poker face as it's too much for her to take in. Kaniko, Xavier hiding the truth from any of you. Of course every girls in his peerage are his wives. That includes Lady Sarah Fall Leviathan, Lady Latia Astaroth, and few girls that I won't reveal it unless I'm allowed to. This revelation shocked both queens, Akino and Tsubaki as well Kiba, as none of them know that he's a married man and have more than one wives. Sona already knows about it as she were informed by Kelia when Xavier asking her sister a hand in marriage. Akino Tsubaki Kiba, poor riser. He has been duped by Lord Xavier and Ravel Phoenix. They shared the same thoughts. The marriage ceremony between Xavier Gremory-Lucifuge and Ravel Phoenix went smoothly, ended with a vow. In the back, Rias were relieved that she didn't have to marry Riser, and the said Riser groaned in despair, as he has been duped by his own sister. Xavier, I'll cherish you for the rest of my life, my cute Phoenix. Ravel, and I'll do the same thing, my Crimson Prince. With that, they had another passionate which were applauded by the guests, some of them whistling and congratulating the newlyweds. Few weeks after spend time with Ravel on their honeymoon trip, Xavier returned to Kotown and went to the Himejima shrine to get Shuri Himejima after he pick up Suzaku Gremory Himejima, one of his wives who is a cadre class fallen angel. He retracted his wings into his back when he lands on the ground. Next to him was a beauty girl who exactly like Akino except eyes color was red. It was Suzaku Gremory Himejima. Xavier, are you ready to meet your mother, babe? He looks at his wife and holds her hand. Suzaku, as ready as I'll ever be, she answered after took deep breath. They walks inside the shrine and greets the Himejima matriarch who walks up to them. Xavier, it's good to see you again, mother-in-law. He bows respectfully before his wife's mother, who shocked to hear him calling her mother, which she realized that the woman next to him was her other daughter, Suzaku Himejima, or now known as Suzaku Gremory Himejima. Tears swelling in her eyes as she hugs her daughter. Shuri, Suzaku, it's been so long since the last time I hold you in my arms. Suzaku smiles softly as she hugs her mother back. Suzaku, it's good seeing you doing well these days after your resurrection, mother. I assume you know why we here. Shuri, yes I do, it's time for me to meet your father and sister. Xavier, I'm forever indebted to you for doing all this. She looks at her son-in-law with a smile on her face. He smiles back as he nods. Xavier, no need to thank me, mother. I'm part of the Himejima family now. I'd anything for my family. Suzaku, I'll go to ORC with mother. You are going to fetch father. He teleported away to ORC with Shuri, leaving his wife behind, who soon teleport to Grigori. In an instant, Xavier and Shuri came out from the magic circle. Xavier looks at his mother-in-law and said, Xavier, wait out here. I need to knock some sense into Akino. She might attack father out of hatred if she sees him. Shuri nods as she replied, Shuri, don't be too hard on her, okay son? Xavier only nods and teleport inside the ORC and sees the new faces, who suddenly ready to attack but was stopped by Kelia and Rias. Xavier, newcomers? Oh hello Auntie Rias, everyone. It seems you all doing well. The newcomers' eyes are widened as they surprise that the stranger casually addressed their king as Auntie, and only mean one thing, he is her nephew. Rias smiles at him and said, Rias, hello nephew, it seems you enjoyed your honeymoon trip. And let me introduce you to my new knight and rook. The woman with blue hair is Zenobia Corda, former exorcist, and the guy next to her is Heracles, twice critical sacred gear wielder. Zenobia and Heracles walks up to him. Zenobia, it is a pleasure to meet you, Lord Xavier. I heard tales from Irina about you. I thank you for saving Irina after she were excommunicated from the church. I stood up for her and have quite intense arguments with those racists until I was stopped by Irina's father. She bows before him. Heracles, same here, Lord Xavier. They took our freedom without our consent, using us as expendable fodder, and once reached usefulness, they had the gall to excommunicate us after learning about God's death. He added with set his tongue in annoyance. The last part piqued his interest, as he may know about it but never been confirmed. With that information, he coated himself in POD aura and asked in cold tone. The entire building shaking violently and causing most majority here to fall on their knees. Xavier, what has happened during my absence? Rosweiss, Irina. Fill me with the situation that happened so far. I want full details. With that, Rosweiss and Irina tell him everything that happened during his absence, starting from 2 exorcists came in, the encounter with the stray exorcist, Friedzelsen, Archbishop, Valper Galilei, Kiba going stray for revenge, and lastly Kokabil's attacks in as well, the revelation of God's death, and White Dragon Emperor apprehend Kokabil and Friedzelsen, bringing them to Grigori under Azazel's order. Xavier, I see. Isaiah has awakened the balance breaker, the sword of betrayal, combination of holy and demonic sword. A holy sword Durandal wielder, Zenobia Corda and White Dragon Emperor make his debut. I'm not happy that you keep this from me, but I push that aside for now. I'm here to speak with Aquino. He retracted his aura, which allows everyone to breathe as much air they needed. Aquino was bewildered by his words and asked, Aquino and me? What is it? Xavier, I just want to say that whoever show up, you are not permitted to attack or leaving. Do you understand me? Aquino just nodded, as she has no idea who she could possibly attack for no reason, but agreed nonetheless. Xavier, good. I asked someone to fetch your father and teleport him here. As he said that, a bulky man appeared before them, and it was Barakiel, a cadre class fallen. Aquino's expression darkened at his presence, and was about to attack him with lightning, but halted as she sees Xavier's eyes glowing at her, indicating her to stand down, or else, which she complied although reluctantly. The said man looks at Xavier Gremory-Lucifuge and asked, Barakiel, so what's the famed red-eyed devil of death wants with an old man like me? Xavier, oh not much, just this. You may come in now, he shouts, and Shuri enters the room with a smile on her face. Shuri, hello my dear husband and daughter. The said father and daughter duo gasp, seeing the person who they thought dead was standing before them, alive and well. Rias and the others are shocked seeing the dead women standing before them, alive. They looks at Xavier, demanded for an explanation. Barakiel/Aquino, Shuri/MOM. They rushes towards the woman and hugging her. Xavier, I used the forbidden spell that I personally invented, the resurrection spell, he answered nonchalantly. What? Rias and the others were touched and happy for Aquino and her father, who finally reunited with Shuri Himejima, who has been dead for more than 0 years. Xavier pulls Rosweiss and Irina into his arms by wrapping them around their slender waist. Xavier, how's baby by the way? He asked as he gently caresses their stomachs. Rias and the others, Himejima family and Kelia, who's pouting, shocked hearing those words from him, as none of them knew both Rosweiss and Irina were pregnant with his children. Rosweiss, well, she's been naughty this whole time, kicked me from the inside, she replied cheerfully as she humming. Irina, he's fine, but nothing happens to our babies, honey, she asked him in the cheek. Xavier, good to know, but what about Sarah Fall? She's pregnant too, isn't she? To his surprise, someone answered his question in excitement as the said person hugging him from behind. Sarah Fall, that's right baby. She's too energetic, just like me. Xavier, hey Sarah. It's good to see you dear, he smiles at her. Issei cried comically in the corner, as the handsome red-haired prince were blessed with beautiful women and were pregnant with his children. Aquino came up to him and said, Aquino, thank you so much for reviving my mother, Lord Xavier. This means a lot to me and my father, and congratulations for becoming a father. I'll use this opportunity to make amends with my father and train hard to use my fallen power. He gently puts his hand on her head and caresses it. Xavier, anything for my family, sister-in-law, he said with a smirk, knowing she would ask him for calling her sister. Aquino, sister-in-law? What do you mean by that? She's inquired. He simply shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly as he responded. Xavier, oh not much. Just I'm married to your twin sister, Suzaku Himejima, now known as Suzaku Gremory-Himejima. Isn't that right, babe? As he said that, someone appeared before them, and it was Suzaku Gremory-Himejima, a cadre class fallen, and his wife, one of his wives. Rias approached her nephew and pinched his cheek hard. Suzaku, yup, greeting everyone. My name is Suzaku Gremory-Himejima, one of Xavier's wives. Younger twin sister of Aquino Himejima and daughter of Shuri Himejima and Barakiel. Pleased to make an acquaintance. Rias, first, you duped me and made me thinking that I'm marrying Riser, and now you telling me that you married Aquino's sister behind my back? Who else did you marry without us knowing? Xavier Gremory-Lucifuge. Kelia joined her auntie by pinching his other cheek, just as hard out of jealousy. Kelia, yeah, shithead. Tell us, and don't you think Dad, Mom, Grandpa and Grandma will let you off the hook? I tried so hard so you would acknowledge me, and I even tried to get my hands into your pants many times, but you completely ignoring me. Her last comment made Rias let go of Xavier and looks at her niece in disbelief that she just said that out loud and not caring about the people around them. Rias, Kelia Gremory-Lucifuge. What in the world are you saying? Xavier is your older twin brother. Do you realize what you're saying right now, young lady? Wait until your mother hear of this. She pulls her ear and twists it, Kelia begging profusely. The group, including Himejima family, were having sweat drops behind their heads. Xavier, on the other hand, were sighs deeply at his twin's words. Xavier, oh boy, mother, father, you can come out now. I know you were there. As he said that, the married couple appeared in the center of the ORC, one had hand in his face, meanwhile the other walking towards her daughter and towering over her with arms crossed under her big breasts. Rias walks backwards as she knew better than intervene with an angry mother. Grafia, young lady. Care to repeat what you said just now? You've been trying to get your hands into his pants? That's it, young lady. Come with me, I and your grandma will punish you for thinking about your twin brother that way. The same goes for you, Sirzex. You shaped our daughter into a supermassive Biarokan. 8. She grabs Kelia by the collar of her uniform and pulls her, as she walking towards her husband, who practically hiding behind their son, who trembling in fear before the Lucifuge matriarch. Grafia, oh, congratulations for you of becoming a father, Xavier. I can't wait to play with my grandkids. As much I want to stay and chatting with you, I have other things to deal with. See ya later, son. Now come along, Sirzex. She pulls him by his ears, and when she was about to teleport, father and daughter duo screamed in fear and despair. Sirzex/Kelia, no. Grafia goes back to the underworld with her husband and daughter, leaving Xavier and the others behind. Issei, not gonna lie, but that was super duper scary. I never seen Lady Grafia angry before. Women truly are scary, he said with fear in his voice. The rest of the males nodded in agreement with Issei's statement. Xavier, Kiba, Heracles, Barakil, yeah, no kidding. They said in sync and gotten huge bumps on their heads in the courtesy of girls as the said girls hit them so hard. Issei, Xavier, Kiba, Heracles, Barakil. Why me? They shared the same thoughts. Few days later, the entire Himejima clan were arrested for attempting murder of Shuri Himejima and Akino Himejima, and were executed by Akino Himejima, who's the new head of the clan. Shuri Himejima become one of the Himejima's council along with Suzaku Gremory-Himejima. The said women were pregnant with his baby, who will be an heir of the clan. The Himejima family living in the shrine once again. Xavier currently spend time with boys, Issei, Kiba, Heracles and Saji on the rooftop after the open house. The said married man looking at the brown-haired boy. Xavier, tell me something, Hayadu. Do you truly love Rias, Asia, Akino and Zenobia? Issei, yeah, I do. They have these amazing racks, especially when they slept in bed. He made the lecherous face to hide the pain in his heart, which noticed by Xavier. Even Heracles knew Issei had trauma, as one of the humans were implanted a sacred gear by gods. He can tell Issei hiding it with his perversion acts. Kiba and Saji are unaware of his turmoil, especially Saji since he is Sona's pawn. Xavier, that so? Or you actually fear of rejection and couldn't confess your feelings to any of them? Rainier really did a number on you, isn't she? Summon your boosted gear and no question asked, just do it. Issei was shocked by those words from him, as he never thought Xavier would notice his pain that he's trying so hard to hide. Although reluctantly, he summoned boosted gear that materialized on his left arm. Xavier walks up to him and extends his hand as magic circle formed on his palm. Issei, what are you trying to do? He looks at the said prince with his lifeless eyes. Xavier, I'm going to extract Rainier's wretched soul from your boosted gear and send it to Dimensional Gap. Clearly she has been tormenting you since the day she were killed by Rias. Listen well, you are free to love any girls you like except my wives, of course. If you even get near to one of them, I'll obliterate you with my pod. They are off limits. Rias and those three are available. They love you unconditionally and doesn't care about your perversion antics. Love them just like they love you. Just because you were toyed around by that fallen, doesn't mean Rias and the others are gonna do the same. Give them a chance to love you, and most importantly, you gotta move on and give yourself a chance to feel love and being loved. You will not regret it if you do, trust me, he explained sternly but full of kindness and sincerity in his words. He looks at the black smoke like on his palm. Xavier, you truly are a parasite, Rainier. Begone, you filth, to the eternal darkness. Rainier's soul were ed into the magic circle as he sent it to Dimensional Gap. Kiba was comforting Issei, who finally free from Rainier's shackles, Heracles smiles at the pawn. Meanwhile, Saji is confused as he doesn't know who Rainier is. Saji, Lord Xavier. Who is this Rainier person? And why is she tormenting Hayato? He looks at the super devil. Xavier, she's a fallen angel who disguised as a Monoyuma and made a move on Hayato by pretending asking him out. Her original mission was supposed to observing Sacred Gear Wielder, but by the order from Kokobile, the observation turned into termination, and as a result of Hayato's death in the hands of Rainier at the end of their date, Sacred Gear Wielder are shunned in this world. They will be treated as an expendable fodder until their usefulness expired. Once they are useless, they will be killed or outcast by others who fear of the power they possessed. Irina, Asia, and Heracles themselves are the perfect examples for that, since all of them used to be part of church. Irina's sacred gear are on top amongst the Longinus, and considered to be the most powerful Longinus if compared to the rest. Meanwhile, Hayata's on top of after divine dividing gear. They are shocked beyond belief, as none of them knew Irina's sacred gear are that powerful. Issei, it is true that the factions are gonna form an alliance in the peace conference, Lord Xavier? He asked with anger as he grits his teeth. The thought of fallen angel and angel make him sick to his stomach. Xavier, yes. The conference will be held here in this academy. It's time for factions ends their skirmishes once and for all. It has gone long enough. The more conflicts between factions would be huge waste of time. I incline to agree with my father and the other faction leaders. He looks at Irina, who waves at him from the ORC. Heracles, I don't like this, but Lord Xavier has the point. He completely agreed with Xavier. Kiba and Saji shared the same sentiment with Heracles. Issei, however, scoffs as he finds it humorous. Issei, well, I don't. After what those ING Church did to you, Irina, Zenobia, and Asia, I refuse to consider them as our allies. The same can be said for the fallen scums. They kill me and Asia, he shouted loudly and defiantly. Xavier looks at Kiba, who nodded as he understands what Xavier wants him to do. He knocks Issei out and put him on his shoulder. Kiba, I'll take him to the infirmary. Excuse me, Lord Xavier. He walks off with Saji, who follows the knight, leaving Xavier and Heracles behind. The said guy looks at the super devil and said, Heracles, I didn't expect Issei's hatred for both fallen angel and angel would be this much, but after what has happened, it doesn't surprise me if he wants to declare war on them. Xavier, talk with Rias about this. I've another business to attend to. I'm counting on you, Heracles. Heracles, thank you so much, Lord Xavier. I'll inform Lady Rias about this. With that, Xavier teleported away. After school, Heracles informed his king and fellow peerage members, excluding Issei, who went to client's house to form a contract. Rias put the cup down after her rook briefed her regarding Issei's trauma and fear of women. Irina and Rosweiss were present under the order of their husband. Rias, I see Rainier tormenting Issei after I kill her during saving Asia. To think she transfer her remaining soul into his boosted gear and tearing him apart emotionally. I didn't expect she would go this far even after she's dead. Xavier has been doing what's supposed to be my responsibility as a king. She grips the paper in her hand, turning it into dust with her pod. Rias, I'm depending on him too much. I'm a disgrace to the Gremory clan, who's used to be heiress of the family. He's done so much for me and my peerage, starting from took over my place in the engagement after raiding game, getting rid of Kaniko's fear of her power, then reviving Akino's mother, and reunited the Himejima family. Lastly, he get rid of Issei's trauma by retracting Rainier's soul and send it to Dimensional Gap. Rias shedding tears as she curses herself and doubt her ability as the king of her peerage. Akino walks up to her and put her hand on her shoulder. Akino, don't berate yourself too much, Rias. I know you are frustrated, but that's not a reason for you to downgrade yourself. This would be valuable experience for you to learn in order to become better king. I believe in you, so are the others. The rest of her peerage nodded resolutely, agreeing with her queen's statement. Rosweiss and Irina chimed in. Rosweiss, Akino's right, Rias. You shouldn't berate yourself. Sure, you unable to see the pain in your servants/family, but you should think positively. Xavier Cohen did all of that not to degrade you or to make you feel worthless. He did this because he think it is the right thing to do. Chiron is one of his wives and Akino is his sister-in-law. Irina, she's right, Rias-san. Issei no longer have fear of woman and get rid of his perversion. He feel excited about to experience love and being loved. This is your chance to have a relationship with him as much as you desired. The same can be said for Asia, Akino, Zenobia, and anyone who want to be in a relationship with him. She took deep breath before continuing. Irina, all Issei want to feel love and being loved despite his perversion. All I ask is each one of you don't do the same thing as Rainier did. It'll lead to Dragon's fall, which will be catastrophic in the future. Let him fully recover from his trauma first. To him, Rainier was his first girlfriend. The mention of Dragon's fall brings fear to Rias and her peerage as they knew about it, and their fear intensified if they had treated Issei the same way Rainier did. They would definitely be hunted down by evil dragon if he somehow converted into one. Asia, then it's better if we let Issei-sen recover from his trauma and overcome it. If we made him to confess by force, then we are no better than Rainier, if not even worse. If Issei-sen becomes an evil dragon after Dragon's fall, he'll hunt us down and end our lives, she said as Rosweiss and Irina's words made a lot of sense, which agreed by her fellow peerage. Zenobia, I may not know much about this Dragon's fall, but by the judge of it, I don't think we can take this things lightly, given that it'll not only doom us all but Issei as well, she added with shiver at the thought of being hunted down by Issei, who converted into evil dragon if they screw things up. Heracles, damn, that Rainier girl really torturing him emotionally despite being dead. As a sacred gear wielder myself, I doubt I'll be able to hide the pain in me by putting up an act. I'm beginning to respect Hayato, he's a tough one. He put his own opinion with seriousness on his expression. Kiba, I agree, Heracles-kun. Now he's leaving his perversion behind and sought another relationship. We must support him after what Lord Xavier has done. We can't let his efforts go down in vain, he finished. Chiron, now don't you guys screw things up, because there'll be no another chance in case you finished what Rainier started. Our husband did what he needs to be done, she said sternly as her expression darkened. Rias gulped in fear as she looks at Kaneko, Rosweiss and Irina, who had the most scary look in their eyes, indicating that they are serious. Rias, I understand. I promise you guys that we will not finish what Rainier started. We will not do anything that warrant our death. Xavier are scary, way scary than evil dragon, she said with fear in her voice. Her peerage nodded vigorously. The next day after school, Xavier and Rias, along with their peerage, spending time together, not knowing soon they will receive the shock in their lives. Rosweiss sitting on his right side and Irina on his left, while Kaneko sleeping on his lap, much to Kuroka's displeasure. Xavier, so I heard Kelia got her ass spanking by both mother and grandmother, is that true? He asked his auntie. Rias, pretty much. She wouldn't budge, even they used magic circle to do so. Kelia really obsessed with you and wants to get her hands in your pants. She even declared to stay single unless she got to marry you. Oni-sama really shaped his daughter into supermassive Brokon, not what a parent should do, she answered in disbelief, much to the others' shocked and made them speechless. Xavier pinched the bridge of his nose in annoyance. Xavier, you know what? I'm glad I inherited Mom's tendencies instead of Dad's. I wonder where Dad got his tendencies from. Grandpa or Grandma? That's what has been bugging me. If these are inheritance, I don't want my kids to be cis/Brokon like Dad or Kelia, either sadist like Grandma for that matter. It would be huge disaster, he groaned tiredly. Rias sympathized with her nephew since she knew how it feels, as her brother was the father of her nephew. Rias, I know how you feel, Xavier. It's that we both have cis/Brokon as siblings. It is embarrassing, especially during open house, she groaned loudly. Xavier, yeah, no kidding. At least Dad wasn't a super ciscon like Kelia. I was embarrassed to death during open house. She's sitting on my lap and seduced me by showing me her cleavage with no absolute shame whatsoever. Glad Mom was there to stop her, otherwise Irina and Rosweiss would beat me and not letting me have with them. Sorry about that last part, unnecessary to be spoken about so casually. Few seconds later, a magic circle appeared on the floor and came out very happy Kelia and not very happy Graphia. Rias's peerage bows to her. Graphia, hello son everyone. She greets her son with guilt on her face. Xavier, hey Mom, something wrong? You seems not acting like you usually do. And why is Kelia so happy? Don't get me wrong, it's not like I didn't like seeing her happy, but seeing you like this is kind of weird. He looks at his mother in curiosity. Rias, he's right, Ne-sama. Did something happen in the underworld? She added with the same curiosity. Kelia hugging her twin brother from behind and sniffing his neck much to his surprise and shivering at her actions. The Lucifuge matriarch sighs deeply and said, Graphia, nothing happened in the underworld. It's just the elderly from the council has come with a conclusion in regard of reviving the Lucifuge clan to its former glory. She took a deep breath before continuing. Graphia. I, Graphia Gremory-Lucifuge, head of the Lucifuge clan, hereby deliver the news to you. Xavier Gremory, heir of the Gremory clan, is now to be put into an arranged marriage with heiress of the Lucifuge clan, Gremory-Lucifuge. Both Rias and Xavier's jaw dropped at the news delivered by head of the Lucifuge clan. Their servants also had the same reaction, as they didn't expect the elderly from the council to do such thing. Rias/Xavier, say what? The auntie and nephew duo yelled out loud, as either of them has seen this coming. Xavier looks at his mother in shock, disbelief, and wide eyes. Xavier, hold on a sec. What in the world of abomination are you saying, Mom? You can't be serious. Hell, what's those bastards thinking? I'm marrying my own sister? If this some kind of joke, you can stop, it's not funny. There's no way I'm Mar. He couldn't finish his sentence as he was slapped by the saddened, angry Kelia, who had tears swelling in her eyes. Kelia, why you jerk? How could you say such a thing? Am I not good enough to be with you? It's not my fault that I fell in love with you, jackass. I did so many things that are embarrassing me just to be acknowledged by you, and I weren't even worth a second thought? Do you know how much courage I needed to confess my feelings to you? I know it's wrong to love your own sibling to begin with, but I can't help it. You hear me? I can't help it, all right. She falls on her knees and cries uncontrollably. Xavier looks down in devastation, as he had no idea what to say about any of this. Hell, he didn't know Kelia having hard time. He grits his teeth as tears streaming down his face. Graphia was comforting her daughter in her arms. She doesn't know what to do, as her children were in despair. Rias and the others are worried about the twins and feel sad for them, knowing they both needed to have the mutual agreement between them. Xavier, is that what you truly want, Kelia? He asked his twin somberly. The said twin looks at him with tears in her eyes. Kelia, I can't love anyone else but you, Xavier. I know love between siblings is a taboo, but I can't possibly lie to my own feelings. I love you and only you, she said, sniffling. Xavier, we will see how far things goes between us. If it's worked out, I'll marry you without question. However, if it doesn't, you understand what I'm saying, right? He asked again while wipes tears away. Kelia, I understand. Thanks for giving me a chance to prove that I truly love you, brother. She closed her eyes slowly. Graphia looks at her son, feeling sorry for putting him into difficult situation. Graphia, I'll inform the council that you agreed to go with it. Once again, I'm so sorry, son, for putting you in this situation, she said sadly. Xavier waved at her dismissively. Xavier, it's fine, Mom, this bound to happen sooner or later, he replied. With that, Graphia returns to the underworld with sleeping Kelia in her arms. Rias looks at her nephew. Rias, I certainly didn't expect Kelia to bottle up her feelings for you this whole time. She's seriously in love with you. I really don't know what to say. She's still in shocks after learning about her niece's situation. Xavier, tell me about it. I really am a jackass, he said in low tone. Rossweiss and Irina took his hands in theirs and giving a gentle, loving smiles. Irina, don't degrading yourself, dear. You wouldn't have known about her feelings for you to be this magnitude. She yes him on the cheek and lays her head on his shoulder. Rossweiss, Irina's right, babe. Don't blame yourself for this. She lays her head on his other shoulder. After Graphia drops the bomb nuclear to Xavier and the group. He was massaging his forehead while sighing heavily. They didn't know what to say about it, as none of them know what it feels like to marry their own siblings. All they can do is to offer the condolences. Xavier, this is getting out of hands. I didn't expect those old bastards to stoop so low just to preserve pure-blood devils. Kelia, on the other hand, I don't know what to say about her, he whined with a groan. Kuroka, that's woman for you. When a girl loves someone, it doesn't matter if the person is a sibling or not. They will do whatever it takes to get what they wanted. Well, it's illogical for a human to commit taboo, but it doesn't apply for supernatural world like us. She gave her own opinion. Luminous, I have to agree with Kuroka, love. A marriage between siblings happens quite often in supernatural world. Heck, even my grandfather married his own sister due to his siscon fetish, she added, which solidified Kuroka's exclamation. Akino, wow, I really don't know what to say about this, she said in disbelief. Issei, same here. Never thought I see the day siblings marry to one another. This is insane, way more than my former dream to become harem king. No offense, Lord Xavier, he added while looking at the heir of the Gremory clan, who waved his hand dismissively. Xavier, none taken, Issei. It is insane, alright, but what's done is done. Spilling over milk now is pointless. The arranged marriage between me and Kelia can't be revoked. The deeds is done. he replied with heavy sighs as why this is happening to him. Suddenly 2 magic circles appeared on the floor and came out individuals. Once the light died down, there standing Ingvild Gremory-Leviathan, the descendant of Leviathan, Gabriel Gremory, a seraph, and Yasaka Gremory, queen/leader of yokai faction, as well her daughter, Kunu. Kunu, daddy! She runs towards her stepfather and snuggles him in his chest, who catches her in his arms. Rias and the others, Xavier's wives, are shocked seeing individuals standing before them. Rias, Lady Gabriel, a seraph, and Lady Yasaka? Wait! Isn't that Ingvild Leviathan, descendant of the Leviathan? What are they doing here? And did the kid call in you? He cut her off with a smile. Xavier, daddy? Well, yeah, she's my stepdaughter, Kunu, and she's daughter of Yasaka, who is one of my wives that I don't announce in the public. Gabriel and Ingvild Leviathan also my wives, and Gabriel currently pregnant with my child along with Ross Weiss, Irina, and Sarah Fall. Who do you think that informed me about Nekashu genocide that led to utter extinction and Irina's excommunication? He looks at his auntie. Rias's eyes widened at that exclamation point as she beginning to connect the dots and finally realized Yasaka and Gabriel informed him about the situations. Rias, wow, just wow, that makes sense. There's no way you will know everything on your own. You have been in contact with Lady Gabriel and Lady Yasaka behind our backs years ago, she said in utter disbelief. Her peerage excluding Kaneko are shocked to the point they couldn't even get the voice out. Gabriel, 3 factions are still on skirmishes that time, so Xavier's secretly in contact with us to prevent the elderly devil from the council found out he has been seeing us. Gabriel interjects before Xavier could say a word. Yasaka, as Lady Gabriel has mentioned, we can't let those elders know Xavier meeting with us in secret, and even married us. We haven't formed an alliance with other factions, so we have to hide our relationship from everyone. I'm truly sorry for causing such inconvenience, she added and bows her head to Rias, who practically panicked, and waved her hands dismissively. Rias, it's okay, Lady Gabriel, Lady Yasaka. I completely understand why you didn't want anyone to find out about your relationship with my nephew. I'm shocked to hear that he is married to you 3, but by the looks of it, he treated you with all his hearts just like he did to his other wives, she said with a smile. Ingvild returns the gesture. Ingvild, Xavier is very sweet and good husband. He loves us all equally. He's the best husband we could ever ask for. He treated us with respect, unlike other high-class devils who only sees us as pieces of meat and wanted to you-know-what. I can't say in front of Kunu, she said with a bit of disdain. Rias and the other girls know exactly what she was talking about. Rias, I agree with you on that part. I'm glad Xavier isn't like them. Well, being Graphia's son has its advantage. Although I can't say the same about his twin, she's like my brother. You know, have a complex. She sighs deeply at that last part. Ingvild know what Rias meant and nodded. Ingvild, I see, that's too bad. I'm not surprised if she declared her love for him, she replied. Xavier and Rias flinched, which noticed by Gabriel. Gabriel, wait, is she really doing it? She asked her husband, who sighs in defeat. Xavier, nail it, honey. She did it all right, but she couldn't help it since she knew darn well that love between siblings are taboo. I decided to give her a chance and negotiate with her. If it worked out, we will marry, and if it doesn't, we don't, he answered. Rias and the others nodded Kunu at his exclamation. Ingvild, Yasaka and Gabriel sighs, knowing the deeds is done and nothing can be done except seeing the outcome. Gabriel, guess being Serzex Dano's daughter have its disadvantage, she said awkwardly. Kunu looks up at her father with innocent eyes and asked, Kunu, what are you talking about, Daddy? Xavier had sweat drop and replied, Xavier, you understand when you're older, sweetie. Months has passed since the meeting with Letitia Vladi, Rias's other bishop. The peace conference between factions went smoothly, the training trip of Rias and Sona including their peerage, Kaori, Yui, Kusaka and Kelia married to Xavier, the youth devil gathering, lastly, Diodora's aligned with the rogue devils and magicians, as well the attempt of kidnapping Asia Argento. Xavier has joined Rias and her peerage under the order of Maus to bring Diodora back alive to properly punish him for his traitorous actions to current underworld. Xavier, okay, listen up. Our mission is to save Asia and apprehend Diodora Astaroth into custody. His illegal peerage must not be killed. They will be given to Chief Michael so he can purifying them, as well restores their virginity and emotions that were shattered because of Diodora. If I found out that even one of them is dead, I'll punish you myself, all of you, so better not forget that. Any questions? Rias and her peerage shook their heads. Xavier then heads to the castle with the others. Zenobia, if it wasn't for Lord Xavier's orders, I would like to cut Diodora's illegal peerage like fishes, she said in low tone. Heracles agreed. He had orders to bring Diodora and those girls back alive. If it wasn't for the orders from superiors, I know he would love to exterminate them with his pod, he added with a smirk. Issei. But he didn't say we can't beat them senseless. I'll teach that a lesson for kidnapping my girlfriend, he scowls. Xavier, chill out. I know you are angry, Issei, and rightfully so, but focus on saving Asia from them first. You guys can go wild to your heart's contents, but no killing them, alright? He looks at the trio, who nodded resolutely. Oh, yes, sir, they shouted in sync. Soon the group made it to Astaroth's castle, and in front of them, standing 5 girls in cloaks, obstructing their way inside. Rias looks at her nephew and asked, Rias, so who's staying behind and hold them off? Xavier, Aquino, Chiron, Zenobia, Heracles, and 2 additional backups. 6 of you stay behind and keep them at bay. Rias, Issei, Letitia, and myself will go save Asia, he explained to the group. Aquino, additional 2? Who are they? She asked her brother-in-law, who had grin on his face. Xavier, my lovely Valkyrie and fallen sadist. 2 figure emerged from the magic circle. It was Rosweiss Gremory and Suzaku Gremory-Himejima. Rosweiss, that would be us. Hey babe, I'm ready to go wild after this shit. Suzaku, I second that, my dear hubby. Show me how dominant you are in bed later on. She giggles sadistically, which made the strongest youth devil scared. Xavier, fine, but now is not the time to talk about this. I will entertain you both once we got home. Focus on the task at hand. Let's go, guys. He slips through the girls in cloaks along with Rias and Letitia. Issei, alright. He rushes after them. Rias looks at her nephew. Rias, I offer you my sincerest condolences, Xavier. You wouldn't get enough rest once we get home, she said with a sly smirk on her face. He growls in annoyance. They came out of nowhere, launching a sneak attack. Before we knew, the Vestal people had conquered New Vestroia and captured all the Bakugan. But nobody messes with our Xavier. Like you have the right to talk. When you literally go wild on Issei along with Aquino, Asia, Zenobia, Letitia, and Tomo Meguri like animals in heat. There's calling for the pot of the kettle black, Rias. The auntie and nephew were arguing, both Issei and Letitia watching them with sweat drops behind their heads. Issei, these 2, do they have to fight at the time like this? He said in bewilderment, not knowing what else to say. Letitia, he isn't wrong though. We are no better than Lord Xavier's wives. The only exception is they are married, meanwhile us didn't. She added her own opinion. Minutes later, they confronted Diodora Astaroth, who had captivated Asia. Asia, Issei-san. Everyone. She's happy to see the love of her life and the others. Diodora, the red-eyed devil of death. You don't scare me. He taunts the super devil, but not working, as said the devil, ignoring him. Xavier, Issei, go beat that asshole. Teach him a lesson for messing with Dragon's mate. Rias and myself will keep an eye on Asia, Letitia. I want you to assist him in beating Diodora. Letitia, yes sir. Issei, time for beatdown, Diodora Astaroth. Balance break, Drag. Welsh Dragon Balance Breaker. Issei clad in red armor as he entered Balance Breaker state. The said lover duo began their fight with heir of the Astaroth clan. The said heir couldn't land a single hit on Issei, who skillfully dodged and even countered with his own, which damaging his ego. Letitia kicked him on the head and stomped on his chest. Issei charged up Dragon Shot in close range. Diodora, damn you Red Dragon Emperor! Damn you Damper! Issei, as much I wanted to kill you, I have the order to keep you alive. So better be grateful, asshole. Dragon Shot. He fired it at close range, which knocked the heir into submission. He and Letitia then dashes towards Asia, who has been freed by Xavier, who walking towards the fallen Astaroth. Xavier, for going against the current underworld, you are hereby sealed in the deepest part in the underworld, Cositus for eternity. He used Hell Ice to freeze Diodora, then sends him away with teleportation circle. He then walks towards the group. Xavier, let's go home. Our mission is done here. Oh, Issei, use protection when you do the deeds with these ladies, if not counting Aquino, Zenobia, and Tomo. Trust me, I had been dealing with my own hornier wives every night. You have 6 while I have, they asked me dry ween. Rosweiss cut his sentence, which he wasn't allowed to finish it when they made their appearance before them. The said Valkyrie, Fallen Cadre and Nikomata tackles their husband on the floor. Rosweiss, damn right we are. Your baby batter are delicious. Can't blame us for doing that, right? She revealed her cleavage to him, which gotten him nosebleed. Xavier, alright. Stop doing that, you are gonna kill me. You know I'm horny when you doing this. He got freed from them and roughly squeezed Rosweiss and Suzaku's breasts, as well ing Chiron hungrily. Rias covered Issei's eyes with her hand. Rosweiss/Suzaku, hhhhys sus that's it baby. They moaned out in pleasure, having their breasts squeezed by their husband. Rias, no peeking, Issei. You got us, she shouts loudly. Issei, geez I'm not the old Issei, Rias. Can we just go home already? This isn't the place for us to do inappropriate things like those horny beasts. Aquino giggles at his remarks. Asia had nosebleed seeing Xavier dominate his wives. Letitia looks away embarrassed. Zenobia and Heracles smirking watching Super Devil dealing with his wives. Rias sighs deeply. Rias, okay fine Xavier. Let's go home already, you horny beast, she shouts loudly, which gotten his attention. Xavier, I resent that remark, Rias. Like you aren't horny when you are with Issei in bed. So yeah, looks in the mirror before saying that to my face, he retorted and teleported away with his wives, leaving Issei and his girlfriends as well Heracles behind. Aquino, era. He got you there, Rias, she giggles with a wink. She then teleported them all back to Hayata's house. 5 years later, Xavier, formerly heir to the Gremory clan, now head of the Satan clan, as he awakened his Satan form in age and recognized as the ND Satan after the original Lucifer. He now rules the underworld as the current Lucifer after his father retired. Kelia became his advisor and helped him with the paperwork. He passed down the title of Gremory clan to his younger brother, Milikas Gremory, who's now head of the Gremory clan. Issei Hayata, or now known as Issei Hayata Gremory, has become ultimate class devil and married to Rias Gremory, Aquino Himejima, Asia Argento, Zenobia Quarta, Letitia Vladi and Tomo Meguri. He is now the advisor of the current Mao Leviathan, Kateria Leviathan, after Seraphal settled down from her position as Mao when she gave birth to a daughter. To Xavier and his wives, who currently enjoyed themselves on the cruise along with their children and parents. Xavier, damn dad, you are not kidding about paperwork. Those things are pilling nonstop whenever I go to office the next day. It's driving me crazy to deal with those insufferable paperwork. He yelled out of frustration at his father, who's playing with his youngest son, Johnny Satan Gremory-Lucifuge. Surzek sahaha. I told you so, son. Well, good luck dealing with those paperwork, Mao Xavier Lucifer. He teasing at the last part, which earned a smack on the head by his wife, Gremory-Lucifuge. Gremory, you know what? Maybe you should return to your post as a Mao Lucifer. If you don't want that, apologize to our son immediately. Her eyes glowing silver as she said with the sweetest smile. Surzek gulped in pure horror, knowing Gremory is angry. He looks at his son with puppy eyes as he pleaded. Surzek, I'm so sorry, son. Please forgive your pitiful old man. Xavier had a sweat drop behind his head, and so are Kelia, who watching her own father begging like a little kid. Kelia, Mom is still scary even to this day. Guess it's true that hell no bent to women's fury. You'd better watch yourself, hun, otherwise you ended up like Dad or even worse. You have wives unlike Dad, who has Mom only. She looks at her brother/husband while massaging his shoulders. Xavier, I'm not Dad, so it's no worries. It's you who should watch yourself, otherwise I'll spank you like Mom and Grandma did 5 years ago. He gave her but a squeeze, who moaned in pleasure as she loved to be touched by him. Kelia, fine, I get it, you made your point. Please stop, Dad, Mom and our son looking at us, she pleaded to her brother/husband, who nodded and let go of her soft bun. He grabs her arm and pulling her down as she now sitting on his lap. Xavier, I'm no longer your brother now that we are married for 5 years, so treat me like Rose and the others did. He took her hand and yes it. Kelia, I know that, but no matter what happened, you are still my twin brother, and that will never change. Not now, not ever. However, now that I'm your wife, I can cross my boundaries and do whatever I want with you, just like the others did. She yes him on the passionately, which he reciprocated with the same passion as he wraps his arm around her waist. Gremory looks at her husband and said, Gremory, let's go joining the others, leave them be for now. She stood up and walks off. Surzek then walks after her with their grandson, to Hayata residence. Issei currently watching movies with his wives as his parents playing with their grandchildren in other room. Issei, I'm forever indebted to Xavier for freeing me from that woman. Thanks to him, I have 6 beautiful, loving wives I could ever ask for. He teaches me that true love are irreplaceable if compared to my former dream back when we are in high school. I heard he's going to Hawaii with his wives and parents. He looks at Gremory's matriarch. Rias, yeah he did. Well, he earned it after working for so long. He hadn't the easy day, especially dealing with those imbecility of the elders from Devil Council. They dared to demand him to put his own children into an arranged marriage between heirs of different clans in order to preserve more Satan. Can you believe that? I swear those imbeciles has no respect for him who's now a Satan after the original Lucifer, she groaned in frustration. Issei put his hand on hers as he smiled softly. Issei, don't worry about it too much, he has me and the other mouths that will support him. Those councils can't do anything to him knowing they are weak against the strongest devil in the underworld. Akino, Issei-kun is right, Rias. We have his back just like he has ours when we needed him the most. Those councils can try, but it won't work the way they want it, she added with a smile. Zenobia, I'll gladly cut them down with my ex-Durandal in case they tried to mess with Lord Xavier again, she chimed in. Asia and Letitia nodded in agreement. Asia, yeah, anyone messing with Xavier-sama, they messing with us. I'm maybe not strong enough like you guys, but I can kick their sorry asses with no efforts. Sorry about my language, she apologized for the last part. Tomo, I second that. I would love to kick their pitiful asses, she yelled out loud, which earns a smack from Letitia. Tomo, what was that for? Letitia, don't yell, the kids will hear and start swearing. If they do, trust me, your ass is the first thing I kick, you hear me? She gave the said woman the most sweetest smile, that promising pain. Tomo nodded vigorously as she doesn't want to her ass getting kicked. Tomo, why yes ma'am. Thanks for watching this video. You really enjoy this video. Like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow Hattori Heiji 121 for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.